After the Buddha's parinirvana, the Buddhist monastic community was not as peaceful and serene as people had expected. Kātyāyanī and Ānanda, two close disciples directly taught by the Buddha, engaged in a heated dispute over the interpretation of the monastic discipline, with Kātyāyanī firmly advocating for strict adherence to the Vinaya rules. Ānanda believed that precepts should vary according to individuals and be applied with flexibility. This seemingly ordinary debate ultimately unveiled the profound secrets behind the development of the Dharma. The true significance of the precepts had long been foreseen by the Buddha. This conflict not only shaped the future of Buddhism, but also profoundly influenced the practice and transmission of the Dharma in subsequent generations. In 486 BCE, in the ancient city of Kusinara in India, an elderly man lay quietly under the twin sala trees. After many years of teaching, the 80-year-old Buddha was about to enter parinirvana. A multitude of disciples gathered around him, listening to his final teachings, among whom none was more sorrowful than Ānanda. He stood before the Buddha's remains, his heart torn asunder. 25 years of service and teachings. The Buddha was not only his teacher, but also the pillar of his spirit. At this moment, the entire Sangha was engulfed in unprecedented emptiness and confusion, for the Buddha's teachings and precepts had once been the guiding beacon for their practice. And now, all of this seems to vanish with the Buddha's teaching of dependent origination. Not only Ānanda, but every bhikkhu in the Sangha also felt a sense of loss and unease. After the Buddha's passing, questions of who would uphold the strictness of the Vinaya, monastic discipline, and who would continue to guide the Sangha gradually surfaced. Some monks believe that since the Buddha is no longer present in the world, it may be appropriate to relax the strictness of the precepts and flexibly adjust them according to different circumstances. The emergence of these views led to differing voices within the monastic community. With the arising of the Buddha, the situation within the Sangha became increasingly complex. Everyone also deeply understands that the Buddha's teachings must remain pure, and the Vinaya, monastic discipline, must not be lax. Therefore, he decided to convene a Sangha council, with the purpose not only of organizing the Buddha's teachings, but also of ensuring that the Dharma could be rigorously preserved and transmitted into the future. After the gathering of the Sangha, everyone first unreservedly raised doubts about Ānanda, believing that he had 8 faults. The first fault was that Ānanda failed to inquire clearly about the specific precepts included in the minor precepts mentioned by the Buddha. At the time of the Buddha's passing, he mentioned that certain precepts could be appropriately relaxed according to circumstances. However, Ānanda did not pursue the matter deeply, thereby leaving it obscure and unclear. It is also widely believed that the Buddha's teachings are never ambiguous. Even a seemingly dispensable precept may conceal an extremely important principle behind it. The second fault was that Ānanda once accidentally stepped on the Buddha's robe. The robe, as a symbol of the Buddha, represents the Buddha's holiness and dignity. This disrespectful behavior indicates that he does not have a mind of reverence towards the Buddha. The third fault occurred during the enshrinement of the Buddha's relics. According to the Buddha's teachings, the Buddha's body after parinirvana should be revered with the highest rites. However, Ānanda allowed the women to first pay homage to the Buddha's body, resulting in the Buddha's body being touched by their tears. The fourth fault that follows is Ānanda's failure to promptly request the Buddha to remain in the world for a long time. At the time of the Buddha's passing, Ānanda should have requested the Buddha to continue remaining in the world, but he failed to make this appeal. The fifth fault is that Ānanda once requested ordination for a woman. In the Buddhist tradition, ordination demands strict adherence, and the issue of ordaining women has historically been a sensitive topic within the monastic community. Ānanda sought ordination for the women. Although his intention was well-meaning, this action was perceived by many as contrary to the precepts established by the Buddha during his lifetime. The sixth fault is that Ānanda did not show proper reverence when he saw the Buddha again. Although Ānanda was always a close disciple of the Buddha, he displayed negligence and casualness at critical moments, behavior that was utterly intolerable to others due to its lack of reverence. The seventh fault is that Ānanda did not promptly offer clean water to the Buddha. Offering water is a common ritual in Buddhism, symbolizing the devotion and respect given to the Buddha. Ānanda's failure to perform this ritual caused widespread dissatisfaction, as it was seen not only as a sign of disrespect towards the Buddha, but also as a disruption to the order of the Sangha. The final fault was Ānanda displaying supernatural powers. As a disciple of the Buddha, Ānanda was undoubtedly a person of extraordinary abilities. However, the Buddha consistently emphasized that supernatural powers are not the goal of practice, but should be kept modest and not flaunted. However, Ānanda had manifested supernatural powers on certain occasions, which everyone saw as completely contradicting the humility and non-self spirit in the Buddha's teachings. Faced with these accusations, Ānanda's heart was filled with grievance. He explained softly, "I have served the Buddha for 25 years, always with reverence in my heart, never with any disrespect. As for minor matters, they are all relinquishable." At that time, everyone was overwhelmed with grief, and I was momentarily careless and failed to inquire clearly. Ānanda's voice was gentle and sincere, each word revealing his deep reverence and remorse toward the Buddha. However, everyone still insisted that Ānanda must make a public confession. He said solemnly, "Ānanda, your fault is not merely a personal matter. It concerns the future of the Dharma. Only through sincere repentance can we ensure the pure transmission of the Dharma." Ānanda remained silent, understanding that everyone's insistence on karma was not personal, but aimed at the enduring and great cause of the Dharma. Although his heart was filled with grievance, he still chose to comply. The assembly continued, homage to Upali. This disciplinarian bhikkhu was selected to recite the Vinaya Pitaka and was responsible for compiling the precepts and rules taught by the Buddha during his lifetime. Ānanda, relying on his extraordinary memory, was entrusted with the responsibility of reciting the Buddhist scriptures. His memory was extraordinary, able to recite the Buddha's teachings word for word. Whenever he chanted sutras, he would begin with "Thus have I heard," indicating that these doctrines were directly heard from the Buddha himself, faithfully transmitted from his own personal experience. However, as the precepts were studied more deeply, differences in understanding the precepts between everyone and Ānanda gradually emerged. It is also firmly believed that every precept established by the Buddha during his lifetime must be strictly adhered to without the slightest alteration. He firmly believes that only in this way can the Dharma maintain its original purity and potency. In contrast, Ānanda advocated that the precepts should be appropriately adjusted according to specific circumstances and the varying capacities of different practitioners. He believes that overly strict precepts may bind practitioners with less sharp faculties, thereby hindering their progress in cultivation. Ānanda's perspective is more flexible. It is believed that the Dharma should adapt according to circumstances to meet the diverse needs of sentient beings. This division grew increasingly wide, and two factions gradually formed within the monastic community. One group of bhikkhus supported the stance on karma, believing that strict observance of the Vinaya was key to preserving the purity of the Dharma. The other group of bhikkhus supported Ānanda's view, arguing that the Dharma should possess flexibility to adapt to different capacities and practice conditions. As the intensity of the disputes continued to escalate, the atmosphere within the Sangha grew increasingly tense, and the opposition between the two sides became more pronounced. Just as the atmosphere within the monastic community grew increasingly tense, Ānanda suddenly recalled a past event. It was an afternoon before the Buddha's parinirvana, when the Buddha summoned him alone and spoke to him a profound and meaningful passage. The Buddha once said to him, "Ānanda, I know that your mind is always filled with doubt. You are about to face a new challenge. It is natural for the Sangha to experience some turmoil and differing views following my passing. Just like a large tree, its branches and leaves each extend in their own form. Although their shapes differ, they all receive the nourishment of sunlight and rain. What truly matters is not making all the branches and leaves identical, but ensuring that they all receive nourishment and continue to grow. At last, Ānanda realized that the Buddha had long foreseen the situation of today. Ānanda shared this memory with everyone, and after listening, they all fell into deep contemplation. Although he still adhered to his own stance, his inner resolve began to waver. He finally realized that the Buddha's wisdom is boundless, not confined merely to rigidly adhering to the letter of the precepts, but rather adapting according to different faculties and circumstances. The true intention of the Buddha was never to ossify the monastic community. Rather, it allows each practitioner to find a suitable method of practice within their own environment, leading to liberation. As the dispute subsided, Ānanda and the others reached a consensus. This seemingly divisive dispute actually promoted the harmonious and comprehensive development of the Dharma. The dispute between Dājaya and Ānanda had a profound impact on later Buddhism. He enlightened the great monks and virtuous masters that the propagation of the Dharma must not only accord with the truth, but also correspond to the capacities and conditions of sentient beings. The propagation of the Dharma requires both the safeguarding of pure precepts and the use of skillful and convenient means of guidance. It is essential to maintain the purity of the Dharma while ensuring it can broadly benefit all sentient beings. Tolerance exemplifies the inclusiveness inherent in the Dharma. He teaches us that the same truth can be expressed and understood through different means. Most importantly, grasp the core spirit of the Dharma rather than being confined to external forms. It is like climbing a mountain. There can be different paths, but as long as the direction is correct, everyone can reach the summit. The subsequent development of Buddhism has indeed confirmed this point. Although various Buddhist schools differ in certain details, they all uphold the fundamental spirit of the Dharma. This diversified development has not weakened the vitality of Buddhism. On the contrary, it has enabled Buddhism to better adapt to the needs of different regions and cultures. The story of Dājaya and Ānanda further reminds us that true wisdom does not lie in rigidly adhering to one side, but in understanding and embracing the necessity of differences. A parable in the Mahākāśyapa elucidates this point. The Dharma is like a good medicine, and the doctor adjusts the prescription according to the specific conditions of each patient. Some people require strong medication, while others need gentle nurturing. The differing viewpoints of the great disciples Kātyāyanī and Ānanda were both aimed at helping sentient beings comprehend this ineffable truth. In the study of the Dharma, we should focus on its fundamental spirit rather than be confined to superficial words and forms. As the Diamond Sutra states, all conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, like dew or a flash of lightning. Thus should one perceive them. Ultimately, after profound contemplation and reflection, the dispute with Ānanda was satisfactorily resolved. This controversy not only failed to hinder the propagation of the Dharma, but instead promoted a profound understanding and development of the teachings.